Hello, hello, good evening. Happy Sunday, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Hello, hello, hello. Let me get my camera set up here. Hopefully, we're in frame well enough. I've got one more batch here. Hello, hello. Good to see you all. Hi, Lisa. Hi, James. Regal. Jennifer, good to see you. Hello. Happy Subchat Sunday, everyone. Thank you for coming by. Late night fun, you bet. Late night fun, absolutely. Oh my goodness. Hello. Hi. Hi. I did, Lisa. I had a wonderful Mother's Day. Thank you very much. It was quite lovely. So I'm very, very thankful for all of the mothers in my world and children. So it was very, very nice. Well, welcome in. I appreciate you all working with me and coming on an hour later than usual. We had some plans that we had earlier today. So, yes, the cats did celebrate. I tell you what, though, Atticus is just getting so chubby. I'm loving it. I'm absolutely loving it. I can't help it. Oh, my goodness, Mr. Chubbies. Oh, we love that. We love that. So, yes, we've been having lots of fun. He's hanging out over on a stool. He likes to watch when I'm doing my lives and just hang out. He's on a stool just next to me here. So, oh, we love it. We love it. Well, happy Sunday, everyone, and happy Mother's Day. Welcome to my special Sub Chat Sundays. Now, this is where I've got my chat. Just turn to my subscribers as a thank you to my subscribers for all of your support and help. I'm just very thankful. I do have everything up and running, though, for everyone to just come and hang out and listen throughout the entire time also, but I just have my chat turned to my subscribers. This gives me a chance to give my moderators a break for the night and also a chance to catch up with my subscribers after a week. So, yeah, after a week. So, thank you. Oh my gosh. Yes, we have. Oh my gosh, everyone. Oh, there was a lot of redacting going on, redacting lots and lots of that. So, we have. This will be my third live for those keeping track. This is my third Stormy Daniels transcript live. We have done the direct testimony, we've finished the direct, then we added in part of the cross-examination, and then we are now going to continue on with the cross. Now, after cross, we have a redirect, then a recross, and then another redirect, or another recross, or a further direct, further cross, however you'd like to call it. We do have some of that. I'm not sure we will make it through the entire rest of the cross actually tonight. It's a lot, everyone. She was testifying for 7 hours, so it's still quite a bit. But we will see what we can make it through for tonight. I do have a... She did. She most certainly did. I do have a few other sketches to pull in that I did find that I thought were pretty well done as well. So, yes, good evening. Hello, Ria. Hello, Tay. Desert Skies. Good to see you all. So I have this one is another one in where she's wearing a green shirt. I haven't seen this one before. Hi, Grammy. Good to see you. Thanks for coming by. Boy, this picture has really made the rounds quite a bit. So this golf photo was really, yikes. That did not do her any favors, or him any favors whatsoever to have that photograph. And here's another one that I thought was pretty good, where she's in over here, and then we have Miss Necklace, or Neckles, I hope I'm saying her name right, Necklace, is asking her cross-examination questions here as well. So we've got lots of that. Hello, Bruce Wayne's mother. Good to see you. So these are just a few new sketches, and then of course I have my regular sketches that I have been showing throughout all of my readings that I've been doing here with Miss Daniels on one day. Hello, Willie B. Happy Mother's Day to you. Hello, Thomas. Welcome. Welcome, welcome. Here's another one. I think this is one of my favorite sketches for sure of Miss Daniels on the stand. Now, kind of as a heads up, I think we've got Michael Cohen coming in tomorrow. That's my guess. That is not confirmed. That's just what I'm guessing. And we've got a lot of talk about who's coming up. We've got 2 people left. Hello, Joyful One. We've got 2 witnesses left for the state. So we know Michael Cohen will be one, I believe, and then we have one more. So I believe it makes sense to put Michael Cohen on as next to the last and then have one more person as the last one. I'm not sure we would want to end on Michael Cohen, so that's why I think we've got someone else coming up as well. But I think by the end of this week, the state will be done with their case in chief, and we will start to see some of the defense case being put on next week. Yes, I know, Lisa. That was my question too. Again, I think they'll be calling some experts in on non-disclosure agreements, and I think that's really the angle that they're going to go at. So we'll see how that plays out for them. That's just my guess at this point. Of course, as defense, you do not have to put on any case whatsoever. You just have to disprove the state's case. So the burden is on the state to prove beyond a reasonable doubt, and rightfully so. So we will see how that goes. How do I feel about the trial so far? I think it's going just fine. What you don't want to have are any moments where you feel like you've kind of gotten sucker punched, or you were like, ooh, I wasn't expecting that. Any big, huge surprises where you just are like, yikes. I don't feel that there were any big surprises in any of the case. I think it's just been clicking along here, but we will see. We still have multiple witnesses that testified on Friday, and we do have defense coming in as well. So there's still quite a bit left, but so far I think they've done pretty good. Technology experts for the voicemails and the voice recordings. Oh, absolutely. And, a lot of the technical or the recordings, the documents themselves have not been stipulated to. So that's why the state had to put on a lot of people in order to authenticate them. So there may be some discussion from the defense saying, hey, you can't rely on them. So that would be another interesting way that defense could take a turn on this. So absolutely possible. Absolutely possible. It has been a very interesting so far. Now we have had Mr. Pecker was the first to testify, and he testified for 3 days, and his testimony was so important. I did go through multiple lives going through Mr. Pecker's testimony, and then the next set of testimony that I went through was Hope Hicks's testimony, and then we kind of voted here, and now we are in Stormy Daniels' testimony. Again, I still have multiple other witnesses to do in lots of other lives coming up, but I do want to make sure we kind of get through the Stormy Daniels testimony here. This one has been riveting. Riveting, absolutely. So I am set tonight, everyone. Just as a friendly reminder, I am set to 18 and older, just for safety's sake. I have redacted any kind of words that I feel would be inappropriate to try to keep this at a PG-13 level, along with concepts, and that's for my own sake. I'm just, uncomfortable going down those roads. I'm sure there are plenty of others who are fine, but for my own personal comfort, I redacted. So as a friendly reminder here, I am on my sub chat tonight just for my subscribers, but everyone's welcome to hang out and listen as I read through this. Now, so the witness is going to be at the top of the page, so Stormy Daniels, and this is the cross-examination by Necklace here, and the page number will be up here. All of these transcripts are available now to the public. The New York courts have made that available. Very thankful to them for that. So any page, if you're wondering exactly, there are a couple of pages in here that are very heavily redacted. I'm very uncomfortable reading some of the words. So if you're interested in what it actually says, you can pull it up and pull that page up and go read it for yourself. Yes, the toilet flushing part is yes, but that's not even the worst of it. So, oh my goodness. I went to law school. I didn't ever think I would be sitting here reading this about a former president. I really didn't. I could not have imagined that. Well, hello, Kristen. Hello, welcome. Good to see you. So anyway, this is just for my own personal comfort level. I've got no professional training in how to, go down that road. So His lawyer kept asking about that one. Oh, I know, Lisa. So, as we continue on, everyone, we will continue to see how defense counsel really is trying to go after a few different issues. And when she's not getting anywhere on those issues, instead of going down another route, she just keeps hammering away at it. Sometimes we do that as attorneys. We just keep going down a road that is a dead end, but eventually you have to take a step back, but she did not. So we have quite a few questions in here that will be along the same lines here. So evening entertainment, I'm happy to do that. Quill. Hello, Annette. Welcome. So I'm absolutely happy to do that. Now, when last we met, I had hoped to get to a break. There was a break in the proceedings, but I was unable to get there. So I had stopped here at this point and just had marked where I had finished reading. So I wanted to make sure I picked up exactly where I had stopped before. Hello, VC. Good to see you, Kaya. So I will go ahead and just pick up right where I left off. We will have just a couple more minutes of this cross-examination, then there will be a break, and then we'll start going into more questioning as we go further on down the road. So welcome in, everybody, for our Sub-Chat Sunday, and I will go ahead and get started here in just a moment. Looking forward to this all day. Oh my gosh, me too. I feel like I'm on the edge of my seat. I'm just waiting to see what's going to happen. So here we go, everyone. Now, just as a friendly reminder, everything in orange is defense counsel. Everything in green is the witness, who is Miss Stormy Daniels here. Blue is for New York, the state of New York, and pink is for the court. So we'll go ahead and just dive right back in. I am going to go ahead and start at the top of the page, even though we stopped mid-page last time, just to get us back into where we were. So, you didn't even tell your husband, who was the father of the child who you claimed was threatened, right? Correct. The first time you publicly told the story that was about a supposed threat to your life was in 2018, right? I don't remember. Well, it was on the Anderson Cooper show, wasn't it? Publicly in like an interview? Yes. I know, I had told it before that because a colleague told it in an interview she did about me. She was the only person that I called that day or the next day after it happened. At that time, though, in your book, you said you told no one, right? Yes. Now you claim you told a colleague. Afterwards, not that day. But you wrote you told nobody about this story, which I said in the book, as you just read, I told nobody about it that day or the days that followed. So the first time you mentioned it publicly was 7 years after it supposedly happened, right? Yes. And for 7 years, it's your claim that you kept this story secret from your husband, right? I kept all of it a secret from my husband. Your daughter's life was in jeopardy and you did not tell her father, right? Right. But when you went on Anderson Cooper and were interviewed, you decided to announce it to the world, right? Correct. And the reason you told the story in 2018 is you were using it as an excuse for why you never publicly said before that you had relations with President Trump, right? I don't understand what you're asking. Well, you used this a supposed threat that happened to you as an excuse to tell people, this is why I didn't talk publicly, I was afraid, right? But I did talk publicly. Well, when did you give a public interview before 2011, before 2018? I talked publicly on the speakerphone on set multiple times. On a radio show in 2007, I told the story. Okay, Miss Daniels, I'm asking about an interview, not what you supposedly told friends. An interview on the radio show? That was an interview. When was that? In 2007. What show was that? A radio show in Tampa. And you didn't say the person's name, did you? Yes, I did. Are you sure? I wrote it down on a piece of paper, and it's shown in the video. That is what you claim. Now you said then, but what occurred is objection overruled. What occurred is obviously you were asked four famous people you had slept with. Yes. And you wrote down 3 people's names. I don't remember how many names I wrote down. It might have been 3 or maybe 4. It was never made public? Correct. What is you claim the public story that you claimed you told before? I mentioned Lake Tahoe in the hotel room, and that's pretty obvious. It was about Donald Trump. In 2018, you went on TV. You said with Anderson Cooper, you never told the story publicly before because I was threatened. Correct. And you blame that on Michael Cohen, right? No, I blamed it on the man in the garage. But you had said that you believe that Michael Cohen was the one who sent that man in the garage. I did at the time. I was wrong. At the time, you hated Michael Cohen. Absolutely. But now you and Michael Cohen are buddies? I wouldn't say we are buddies. You went on his podcast a couple of times to have him apologize, and he did. You hosted his podcast, right? No. You didn't take over his podcast and post it on your site? It was not his podcast. My podcast is called Beyond the Norm. His was called Mea Culpa. When you say you went on his podcast to have him apologize, you went on to talk about your story about supposedly having relations with President Trump, correct? And on that podcast, he told you it had nothing to do with any of the supposed threats made to you, right? Correct. And by the way, both you and Michael Cohen share a desire to make money off of seeing President Trump go to jail, right? Objection as to Michael Cohen. Sustained. You have a desire. I'm sorry, what was the question again? Withdrawn. In 2018, you went on The View and repeated your story about this guy that supposedly threatened you, right? Yes. And at that point, you had a sketch artist draw a picture of what that man supposedly looked like. Michael Avenatti hired a sketch artist. You announced it on The View? Yes, he did. You and Michael Avenatti were sitting right next to each other. Correct. He was your lawyer, right? Yes. And when you say he did it, you did it with him? No, he hired the artist and surprised me with it, honestly. And you and Michael Avenatti offered a $100,000 reward to anyone who could identify the supposed assailant. Michael Cohen offered. Michael Avenatti offered a $100,000 reward. I would have never agreed to that. Michael Avenatti never had to pay that $100,000 reward, did he? No, because no one ever came forward and said, I know who this man might be. A lot of people did. Either none of them checked out or he didn't follow up on it. He definitely got a lot of hits. That's because this man never existed. He absolutely existed. The whole story was made up. No, none of it was made. Can we take an afternoon break? Would you like to take a break? Yes? All right, jurors, let's take an afternoon break. You can all step out. You may be seated. Witness is leaving the courtroom. So Miss Necklace is asking for an afternoon break. The judge is agreeing here. So next up we have a recess, and then we will have continuation here. One moment. And the sergeant, continuing case on trial. I imagine we are going to continue on Thursday. How late are we going? If we have to continue to Thursday, we will stop at 4:30. Then I imagine there is some redirect. Yes, Your Honor. Witness entering. Let's get the jury. Case on trial continued. All jurors are present and properly seated. Miss Necklace. Continued cross-examination. Before the break, just a few moments ago, we talked about how an e-online article, do you recall that? Yes. And you said that you were quoted in there as saying that the story is baloney, right? Yes. You said what you meant by that. You weren't denying that you had relations with him. You were discussing this is baloney thing to do, right? Yes. If we can show that. Do you remember saying on e-online that you vehemently deny the story about you and President Trump hooking up after Trump had played the golfing event and then meeting up multiple times after that? No, I do not remember that. Am I correct that you previously said that you vehemently deny the story of you two hooking up after Trump was playing in a golfing event and vehemently denied meeting up multiple times after that? I did not give that statement. I never gave a statement directly to them at all. You're saying that this is not true? That's your testimony? I am saying I did not give a statement denying the story. It says Daniels herself told E! News that she is not commenting, but the story is baloney. That is my one comment. So you're saying where the article says you vehemently deny this, the article is false? Is that what you're saying? Yes. Turning back to, in 2011, you're denying to an online site that you had relations with President Trump? I never spoke to the online site. I couldn't have denied it. They put up a statement. I was asked if I wanted Keith Davidson to have it removed. I absolutely wanted to have it removed. I didn't confirm or deny anything to the online site. I never spoke to them. Well, your lawyer did. He told them to take the story down. Whether he spoke to them directly or not, I don't know. All I know is he wanted it down and he took it down. Keith Davidson was your lawyer? He was Gina's lawyer. That's how I met him. She said, "Do you want me to have an attorney take it down?" I said, "Yes." You asked him, you authorized him to deny that the story was true and to get it taken down, right? No, I did not. I authorized him to have the story taken down. Now, in 2016, you claimed you were threatened and you were afraid for your life, right? Yes. But at that point, and were you afraid for your life? You had been told, don't talk anymore about Trump, otherwise your life and your baby's life will be in danger, right? Correct. And so you decided, well, I'm going to sell my story, right? I didn't just decide that. I was given advice from someone to do so. You were given advice, according to you, that instead of staying quiet because your life was threatened, instead the best thing to do was go out and sell your story, right? Yes, I was a very different and much braver person in 2016 than I was in 2011, because Donald Trump was not just a guy on television, he was running for president. I was more afraid for my situation. The attorney told me, get high, stay light, get out in front, where you're safe, hide in plain view. In 2011, your story wasn't worth much money. I don't know what it was worth. I turned down many offers. You turned down or tried to get $15,000. You couldn't get that. Correct. Now, in 2016, you say that you were afraid, but the story was worth a lot of money for you now, right? Correct. And you then had Gina Rodriguez go out and try to sell the story, right? Correct. I didn't care for how much. I just wanted the story out there, which is why I had a press conference set up for free. And you didn't give a free press conference, did you? I didn't have to. You were looking to extort money from President Trump, right? False. Well, that's what you did, right? False. And just when we're talking about fear, the fear your supposed fear that you supposedly felt is totally based on the supposed incident that took place in 2011 that you never told anybody about, right? I'm really sorry. I can't always hear when you step away. I'm so sorry. When you say this fear that you say you were under in 2016 is based on the supposed incident that supposedly took place 5 years earlier that you still hadn't told anybody publicly about, right? It was not a supposed incident. It was a true incident. I had told a lot of people. You hadn't told your husband, right? No. And then, so because you had that fear, you decided to do exactly the opposite of what that person had told you to do, right? Which person? The supposed guy that showed up in the parking lot? Correct. So you weren't really very scared, were you? I was terrified. I decided to change my tactic. It was a new ball game. There's a big difference between a reality TV star and someone running for office. The truth is, you saw your opportunity to make it known. You had Gina Rodriguez try to sell your story to the National Enquirer. I saw my opportunity to get the story out. I didn't put a price tag on it. That's why I did every interview for free. You didn't do any interviews for free at that point, correct? And I want to show you what's evidence as People's Exhibit 117A, which are texts between Gina Rodriguez and Dylan Howard of the National Enquirer. This is the evidence of text between Gina Rodriguez and Dylan Howard. Do you see in that first box it's dated June 28th of 2016? Yes. And Gina and you see where it says from G? Yes. There is a redaction? Yes. Do you see that? I represent to you that this is Gina Rodriguez's email and that it's been redacted out. Am I correct that she says Stormy Daniels in the next box? She says, I have her. I'm going to object as to asking this witness what someone else said. It's an evidence if you can confirm that it is what it says, that it is what it says. And then Dylan Howard in the next box asks, is she ready to talk? Right? Yes. And it says, I thought she denounced it previously. In the next box, right? Yes. I don't know who White Eye Communications or Dylan is, but you had in fact denounced it previously, right? I don't know what this is in reference to exactly specifically. I'm not asking you about it. I'm going to ask you to let the witness finish. Sustained. Had you denounced it previously? I don't know what is previously. Did you denounce the story that you had said that you had not had relations, though she denounced it previously? I don't want to confirm or deny something when I don't know what they are talking about. When you look at the next box, she said from Gina Rodriguez, she said she will do it under 2 conditions. If you can go to the next box, and then she doesn't want to go on the record about it, but will tell her story through a source. It says she had relations with him. She wants $100,000. Do you see that? I do. And that was in June of 2016, correct? Correct. And President Trump was running for president of the United States at that point, correct? Correct. And you had authorized Gina Rodriguez to try to sell your story, right? Correct. And you wanted to do it through a source, right? Once again, I don't know what this is specifically talking about. I don't know who Dylan is. I don't know who White Eye Communication is. She doesn't want to go on record about it, but will tell the story through a source. I don't know which specific story. Is it about relations? Is it about being threatened? You want me to comment on something that I don't know the context of? That's not fair. Putting aside the text, I'm asking the question. My question to you is, in June of 2016, had you authorized Gina David to sell your story under the condition that you would tell it through a source? I authorized Gina Rodriguez to shop the story so I could make it public. One of your conditions was that telling it through a source, and the other was that you get $100,000, right? I don't remember that, no. You don't remember those being your conditions? No, because they were not my conditions. Before this date, I had a press conference set up for free. Okay, but you didn't do the press conference. No, because Gina came back into the picture. I hadn't talked to her in a long time. So to be quite honest, about the chance to get the story out and make some money, yes. You wanted to get some money? Get the story out and make some money. You wanted to do it anonymously, right? No. You said Gina Rodriguez's statement there was false? I don't know what she's referring to, so I'm not going to say if her statement is false. Look at the second box from the bottom and see if it's what it says on the top box. What happened with Stormy Daniels' interview on Trump? And then Dylan Howard responds, let's discuss this week. And Gina says, okay, she's asking. This is in July of 2016, correct? Correct. Were you in fact pushing again that you wanted to sell your story? I was pushing that I wanted to sell my story, yes. And that was in July of 2016, right? Yes. And if you turn to page 6, why don't we stop at this point? All right, jurors, let's call it a day. All right, I remind you, please do not talk either among yourselves or with anyone else about anything related to the case. Please continue to keep an open minute. Do not form or express an opinion about the defendant's guilt or innocence until all the evidence is in, and I have given you final instructions on the law and have directed you to begin your deliberations. Do not request, accept, agree to accept, or discuss with any persons the receipt or acceptance of any payment or benefit in return for supplying any information concerning the trial. Report directly to me any incident within your knowledge involving an attempt by any person to improperly influence you or members of the jury. Do not visit or view any of the locations discussed in the testimony, and do not use any program or electronic device to search for or view any locations discussed in the testimony. Do not read, view, or listen to any accounts or discussions of the case. That includes the reading or listening to or the reading of any transcripts of the trial or the reading of posts on any court sites. Do not attempt to research any fact, issue, or law related to the case. Do not communicate with anyone about the case or people involved in the case, and that means including by telephone, text messages, emails, chat rooms, blogs, or the internet. Do not search for any information about the case or the law which applies to this case and the people involved in the case. I will see you Thursday morning. Jury is leaving the courtroom. You may be seated. Miss Daniels, you can step out. Thank you, sir. Is there anything we need to discuss at this time? No, Your Honor. I will see you Thursday. Thank you. Whereupon the trial in this matter stood adjourned until Thursday. All right, everyone. So let's move along here to Thursday. Here we go. We still have quite a bit left for Miss Daniels' cross-examination. Yes, tea break. Thank you, Alice. Yes. All right, everyone. Here we go. May 9th of 2024. Appearances are set out as the date is set out here. And we will just pick up right where we left off. You will see at the top that it says proceedings because they do always take care of any kind of legal questions before they get into the testimony portion. So we will talk briefly. I will read you through their sidebar in open court. What were those pages? So I have a assistant here who's writing down the different pages for me. So he's kind of charting out the pages of each day. So in case you were wondering. All right. So here we go. We are starting on page 2781. This is the people of the state of New York against Donald J. Trump, indictment 71543-23, appearance starting with the people. For the people, ADA's Joshua Steinglass, Susan Heffinger, Becky Mangold, Matthew Colangelo, Christopher Conroy, and Catherine Ellis. I apologize for all of those names that I just butchered. I'm so sorry. Miss Necklace, for the defense, Susan Necklace, seated here with President Trump is here, Todd Blanche, Emil Bove, and Gedalia Stern. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Trump. Just a short application. Sure. I confirmed with Miss Necklace this morning. Among the defense exhibits are J26, marked as J26, and is an arrest record for Miss Daniels from back in 2009. It's an allegation, according to the document, of simple battery with absolutely no injury regarding her former husband with whom she's divorced. I asked Miss Necklace this morning if she was planning to elicit a question about a prior arrest. She said she was. We moved to preclude that. This case never proceeded and was dismissed without prosecution. Now, I'll pause right here because we are doing a sub-chat, everyone, and explain. When we have any kind of prior criminal actions, if there is no conviction, the rules of evidence typically say it's not permissible. It's not allowed to be used. And so that's what the state is arguing here. And then defense is coming back in and saying, I wasn't intending on trying to put the record into evidence. I was just going to ask about whether she was arrested. I'll pause again. If it had been a criminal conviction about a crime of dishonesty, that would be different, but because it was an assault, which is a different kind of crime, those kinds of things are not permissible. And so the court comes in and says, as I say all the time, anybody can be arrested. Any one of us can be arrested when we step outside. That doesn't prove a thing. If it's resulted in nothing, you're precluded from going into it. I'm going to ask instead if her then husband accused her of that. I won't say anything about being arrested, just accusing her. Anybody can be accused of anything. It has nothing to do with credibility. It was a result of a divorce proceeding. If it wasn't a result of a conviction or a fine or a sentence, no, it's not probative of anything. Anything else we need to go into before we get the witness back on the stand? No, Your Honor. One thing, I asked on Tuesday if you wanted to submit a request for a limiting instruction. What do you want me to say on that? Your Honor, I think that given the cross, I'm not sure. It depends where we end up at the end of the testimony. Can it wait until then? Yes, I agree. Let's get the witness back. Witness entering, whereupon the witness, Stormy Daniels, having been previously duly sworn in or affirmed, resumes the witness stand and testifies as follows. Good morning, Miss Daniels. I remind you, you are still under oath. Let's get the jury, please. All rise. Jury entering. Do both parties confirm that all parties are present and properly seated? Yes. Good morning, jurors. Is this not something set out in pretrial motions? Yeah, it is typically, although it may be something that just came to everyone's notice just then. So it may not have been something that was even brought to anyone's attention. Or they may have been talking and she may have said, hey, I'm going to bring it up. And defense wanted to and the state wanted to make sure it wasn't brought back in. But typically, if you know of any of the records of your witnesses, that would all be taken care of in pretrial motions. I think we're just kind of double checking and making sure of anything to make sure that the record's clean. Yep, great question. Miss Necklace, thank you, Your Honor. Continued cross-examination. Miss Daniels, when we ended the day on Wednesday or Tuesday, we were talking about what occurred prior to the 2016 election, correct? Yes. You recall that President Trump was elected president in November of 2016, right? Correct. And in 2011, you had given an interview with E! Online where you had said your story about having relations with President Trump was baloney, right? Objection, mischaracterization, sustained. Well, do you recall that? Objection. Sustained. But in 2016, you were trying to sell your story, right? Yes. We were reviewing People's Exhibit 171A. If we can blow up the part starting with I have her, is she ready to talk? You see that in this part, you say that Gina Rodriguez was saying, was asking whether you were ready to talk, right? Objection, please approach. Whereupon the following proceedings were at sidebar. Two things. One, this has been fully gone through last time. She can go through it again, but it's exactly the same. Second, she didn't say anything. These are not her texts. Gone through last time. She can go through it again, but it's exactly the same. Second, she didn't say anything. These are not her texts. On Tuesday, you can ask her if she's aware of some of this, but you can't do it in such a way that you're putting their words in her mouth. Okay, the objection is sustained. At this point, you're asking for money. You wanted money from President Trump, right? No, you weren't asking for money in 2016. I never asked for money from President Trump. You asked it from Michael Cohen, right? No. Well, you wanted to make money from selling your story, right? I never asked for money from anyone in particular. I asked for money to tell my story. And that's what you're asking in 2016 was for money. To be able to tell your story, right? Asked and answered, overruled. You can answer, you can answer. I was asked to sell my story to publications to get the truth out. But you entered into negotiation over a non-disclosure agreement, right? My attorneys did, yes. And that was your choice, right? No response. Well, you made that decision that you wanted your lawyers to do that, right? I accepted an offer. That was your choice, right? Not necessarily. I wanted to do a press conference. You would prefer to do the press conference and get no money over making money? Is that what you're saying? Absolutely, if it got the story out. So why didn't you do that? Because we were running out of time. You were running out of time to get money, right? No, to get the story out. You could have gone out any day of the week, could have walked out of your apartment, out of your ranch home and given a press conference, right? I could have, but you chose not to, right? I chose to be safe. You chose to make money, right? No response. Right? I chose to take the non-disclosure. And do you recall that in 2016, that at the same time that your lawyer was negotiating with Michael Cohen over a non-disclosure agreement, you were also speaking with a reporter from Slate named Jacob Weisberg? Do you recall that? I recall talking to someone from Slate. I'm not sure what his name was. And Slate, am I correct, is a website that runs stories, right? Yes. And you told Weisberg about your supposed affair with President Trump, right? Yes. And you told him about the fact that you were negotiating with Michael Cohen for a non-disclosure agreement, right? Yes. And Weisberg tried to convince you to let him publish the story, right? No. Let me see. He was my backup in case the non-disclosure fell through. Not enough time. He wanted to publish your story, right? Everyone wanted to publish the story. But you stopped talking to him when you got the money. You wanted money from him, right? I stopped talking to numerous people because I signed a non-disclosure, and that was part of the deal. You could have just let Weisberg publish the story, but you wanted money from Weisberg, right? I could have had anybody publish the story, but you weren't willing to give your but they weren't willing to give you money, right? No. Am I correct? You told Weisberg that you were sharing these details because you were afraid that Michael Cohen was stalling or filing the non-disclosure agreement, and after the election he wouldn't pay you, right? Yes. You said that as an alternative to being paid for your silence, you wanted to be paid for your story, right? I don't remember. Can you show me where I said that? Sure. Can we turn to page 3 of the second paragraph? Isn't it correct that you told Weisberg that as an alternative to be paid for your silence, you wanted to be paid for your story, right? No response. Is that correct? I'm sorry, what was that? Isn't it correct that you told Weisberg that as an alternative to being paid for your silence, you wanted to be paid for your story, right? I don't remember saying that exactly, no. Well, did you tell him that you wanted something to show for your experience? Yes, I wanted the truth to be printed with a paper trail of some sort, whether it was an interview, a video, or money, that I was telling the truth to protect me. You wanted money, right? I wanted the truth to come out. Well, are you saying you didn't tell Weisberg that as an alternative to being paid for your silence, you wanted to be paid for the story? I don't remember saying that. I just told you that. Isn't it correct that Weisberg told you that Slate did not pay their sources, but he encouraged you to come forward anyway? Yes. But you didn't go forward with him, right? Because I was offered the NDA. Even though you would have gotten your story out, you chose not to go with Slate. Correct. This was a better alternative. The better alternative was for you to make money, right? The better alternative was to get my story protected with a paper trail so my family didn't get hurt if the story was out. And the paper trail was out if the story had gotten out. Can you repeat that? And the paper trail was out if the story had gotten out. Correct. With a target on my back and my family's, it was the perfect solution. Am I correct? You told Weisberg another one of your motives was anger about Trump's opposition to abortion and gay marriage? No. You don't remember saying that to him? I don't remember saying that. Baloney. I want to direct your attention to J45 and objection in paragraph 2. There's an objection overruled from now. I'm sorry, I didn't hear the objection. Directing your attention to paragraph 2. Isn't it correct? You told him another motivation to go public was your anger about Trump's newfound opposition to abortion and gay marriage. I don't remember saying that. Was he opposed to abortion? I don't know. Isn't it true that you were telling Weisberg that you either wanted money or you were going to hurt him politically? No. Because that's what you thought, wasn't it? You were threatening that you were going to try to hurt President Trump politically by telling this story if he didn't give you money, right? False. And when Michael Cohen was not paying you the money he promised to pay you, you were furious, weren't you? Yes. And didn't you scream at your lawyer, Keith Davidson, and call him a bad word and tell him you better get money before the election, otherwise you would lose all your leverage and your story would be worth zero? You told him that, didn't you? Can you show me where I said that? If we could play what's in evidence as Defendant's Exhibit F-17 interview, and if you could put up the transcript at the same time. Can you blow up the transcript a little bit? Sorry, that was a mistake. It's all right. Whereupon the audio exhibit is played in open court. Judge, I'm going to object. Sustained. Please stop the tape. Please approach. This has nothing to do with the question that Miss Necklace says. This has no mention of the witness. She's just replaying a tape of the conversation between Michael Cohen. I have to look at the transcript. I thought this was the one where she's talking about that she's screaming at him. Nope. I wanted to say it on Tuesday. You guys need to be careful when you put stuff up. Make sure what you're putting up is what you mean to put up. I don't want any mistakes. I thought this was a transcript. I apologize. There's one where she's calling him a bad word. See if you can find it. I will. I apologize. I put up the wrong tape. Can we look at the transcript first before you play the tape? Yes. Can you put the transcript up first, please? That's the one we're looking for? Yes, that's the one. If you could play that, please. Whereupon an audio exhibit is played in open court. Do you recall that that's what you were saying? That's Keith Davidson, that's your lawyer that you heard on the phone right now, right? Keith Davidson and Michael Cohen, correct? Objection. It doesn't refresh her recollection. She said she didn't recall. Sustained. Do you recall now that you made those statements? No, I do not. Actually, it reminds me I never yelled at Keith Davidson on the phone. This specifically says that Gina's boyfriend was going to go out and tell a story. Not that I was going to do this, because I didn't do this. Sounds like a threat from Keith Davidson. So if Keith Davidson said that, he was lying. Objection. Sustained. But you got $130,000, right? I didn't. That was the payment. That was the payment that I got a portion of it. That was the negotiation on your behalf, right? Correct. And in return for that $130,000, you signed an agreement that you would not tell your story publicly, right? Yes. You described this document on direct examination as a contract between people or parties to keep information secret, right? No response. Do you recall saying that? Yes, it's a contract. And you understand that contract is a legal agreement, right? Well, I'm not an attorney, but yes. And it was called a confidential settlement agreement and a mutual release assignment of copyright and non-disparagement agreement, right? That's what it says, yes. And if we look at that first paragraph, this paragraph talks about who, and that there's this settlement agreement and mutual release between two parties whose names are acknowledged in a side agreement, right? Yes. It says recitals and are these the things that are then being agreed to by the parties about the facts, right? Do you understand that? Yes. And it says prior to entering into this agreement, you had to come into possession of some confidential information, right? Yes. And that it related to the other party, the defendant to this agreement, right? Yes. And you claim that you had been damaged. The other party, the defendant, claimed that he had been damaged and that you were going to have released claims, right? Like I said, I'm not an attorney, so I'm reading this quickly and I signed this based upon what my attorney suggested that I do. Okay, but you can read it. But you read it, didn't you? Yeah. And this is talking about that you guys were agreeing to sell or transfer those rights, right? Any property or property rights, yes. And this is saying that the parties are agreeing that this will be kept confidential thereafter, right? Yes. Because this was a confidentiality agreement, right? Yes. And you referred to it as an NDA or a non-disclosure agreement, right? Yes. And this said that the parties want to avoid expensive litigation, and so you were settling any dispute between yourselves, right? Yes. And you were releasing any claims against each other, right? Yes. And it says that all things that had been said here are integral. They're an important part of this agreement, right? I'm not exactly sure what it means, but shrugs. Okay, so there's some of the provisions in this contract, right? Yes. And the contract went on for many, many pages, right? Yes. And what you've been saying here is that you're not a lawyer and that these are legal terms and that you didn't understand. Or you don't feel that you're able to disclose all the legal terms, right? Not without speaking to an attorney, no. And lawyers negotiated this document, right? Yes. You're a lawyer, you had negotiated it, and Michael Cohen negotiated it, right? That's what I was led to believe. Because you understood that this was a legal matter that needed to be settled in a legal contract, right? Yes, fine, okay. So now on January 10th of 2018, the Wall Street Journal published an article that talked about this settlement agreement, right? I need to make sure that that was the date, but yes, in January of 18, I'm not sure of the exact date. See the date there? It says January 12th. January 12th, sorry. But you know about the article that was coming out before, didn't you? Keith Davidson said that there was something that was coming out. All right, am I correct that on January 10th of 2018, you signed a statement saying that you had not had relations with President Trump, right? Yes. This is that statement, right? Yes. And you state there that on January 10th of 2018, you put that statement, right? That's the day they sent it to me, yes. Well, you signed it. That's your signature on it, right? I don't remember what day I signed it, but that's the day they sent it to me. Okay, but that is your signature, right? Yes. You state in there, I recently became aware that certain news outlets are alleging that I had relations and or a romantic affair with Donald Trump many, many years ago, because it was many, many, many years ago, right? At this time, it was 12 years. That's many, many, many years before, right? A lot of manys, but okay. Then you go on. I'm stating with complete clarity that this is absolute false, right? This is what you wrote in there? Yes. My involvement with Donald Trump was limited to a few public appearances and nothing more, correct? Yes. When I met Donald Trump, he was gracious, professional, and complete gentleman to me and everyone in my presence. That's what you wrote, right? Well, to be clear, I did not write this. You signed this statement, right? I signed it. It was given to me, and I was told I had to sign it. Then you said rumors that I have received hush money from Donald Trump are completely false, correct? That's what you said. Correct, because it was not a rumor. It was the truth. Very different. Indeed, I did have a relationship with Donald Trump. Trust me. If indeed I did have a relationship with Donald Trump, trust me, you wouldn't be reading about it in the news. You'd be reading about it in my book. But the fact of the matter is that these stories are not true. And then you signed that document, correct? Yes. Am I correct that 21 days later you put out another statement like that? Michael Cohen released a statement, yes. And you signed it, right? But I didn't release it, but you signed it, right? Yes. On January 30th, again, you denied that you had ever had a relationship with Donald Trump, right? Yes. You said, over the past few weeks, I've been asked countless times to comment on the reports of an alleged relationship that I'd had with Donald Trump many, many, many years ago. The fact of the matter is that each party to this alleged affair denied its existence in 2006, 2011, 2016, 2017, and now, again in 2018. I am not denying this affair because I was paid hush money, as has been reported in overseas-owned tabloids. I am denying this affair because it never happened. I will have no further comment on this matter. Please feel free to check me out on Instagram at this name, right? That's what it says. That's what you signed, right? Correct. Am I correct that Michael Cohen had been pushing to get you to sign this, right? That's what you're saying? Via Keith Davidson. I never spoke to Michael Cohen directly. But, and you understand that in 2018, President Trump was denying this relationship, right? Yes. And he wanted you to deny it as well, right? Yes. And he was not running for election at that point in 2018, was he? No. There was no election in 2018, right? Oh my gosh. All right. That's... One moment, please. No. He was already president, right? Yes. But he was concerned. You understood he was concerned about his family, right? Objection. Overruled. You can answer. Can't? You can't. I never mentioned anything about his family. Okay, but there's nothing about an election going on then, right? No. And you understand also that President Trump has a brand, right? Apologize. I need a sip of tea. Taking a sip of tea. Oh my gosh, with the brand, everybody. The brand is going to be the end of me. It's this brand. I apologize. Here we go. And you understand also that President Trump is a brand. Yes. And you understand that he's concerned about protecting his brand and his image, right? Objection. Overruled. You can answer. I wouldn't know what he wants to protect. Well, you claim that you had discussions about business with Mr. Trump, right? Yes, and he never expressed concern about his brand. Oh, I apologize, everyone. Seriously, the brand situation is just too much. Oh, all right. All right, here we go. Sorry about that. Sorry, apologize. Here we go. Back into it. We're in it to win it, everyone. Here we go. Didn't you claim, don't you tell a story that he talked about creating an image that was successful? He implied it. And that's his brand, right? Yes, shrugs. So even though you had agreed that you would not discuss this supposed story, that you'd received a lot of money for that agreement, you then decided you wanted to publicly say that you had relations with President Trump, right? No, nobody would ever want to publicly say that. I wanted to publicly defend myself after people attacking me after Michael Cohen told about the story. Well, you wanted to make more money, right? No, that's why I did 60 Minutes for free. Well, you hired Michael Avenatti to be your new lawyer, right? Yes. You then gave an interview to Anderson Cooper on 60 Minutes, right? I did. That was televised in 2018, right? Yes. In that interview, you told the world about what you claimed happened with President Trump, right? Spicy Daisy. Oh, y'all, seriously. Right. And I was not compensated. You were not paid for that interview, right? Correct. And you really want to keep saying that, right? Yes. But the interview generated a ton of publicity for you, didn't it? Lots of bad publicity, yes. A ton of publicity, right? Yes. And your attorney, Michael Avenatti, hated Trump and announced publicly that he wanted to run to be president of the United States himself, right? Objection sustained. Well, Michael Avenatti was helping you get all of this publicity, right? No. Well, he didn't arrange for you to go on CNN? He arranged for me to go on CNN and The View. Everything else he took for himself. And you knew that getting a lot of free publicity for your story would allow you to make lots of more money off of your story about President Trump, right? I actually didn't. I was completely unprepared for how far that went. Well, after giving the Anderson Cooper interview, you were able to negotiate a book contract, right? Yes. And it was for $800,000, right? Yes. So you were able to sell your story for $800,000, right? I sold my life story, yes. And that was in addition to the $130,000 that you had been paid previously, right? I didn't receive $130,000 though. You were paid, but you had to give some of it to Gina Rodriguez and some of it to Keith Davidson, right? Okay, yes. Correct? Yes. And so now you had been paid $930,000, almost $1 million for selling the story, right? I also didn't receive the $800,000. Well, that's what you had contracted to, agreed to get paid, right? Minus commissions, and that was stolen from me. Okay. But that's what you had sold your story for, right? Correct. Am I correct that the centerpiece of your book was about your story supposedly having relations with President Trump? No. Well, you believe that this was the reason people would buy your book, was to read about your description about relations with Donald Trump, didn't you? Sadly, I thought that's what a lot of people would turn to first. Luckily, the start of my story started when I was 2 years old. Chapter 3 started with a joke about how the reader skips right here and then starts with a chapter about President Trump, right? Yes. That's because that's what you believe people were going to do. They were going to buy the book just for that story. I don't know. Sad. Well, that's your book. You wrote it. I did write it. And after you wrote the book, you capitalized even more on the story you were selling by doing a strip club tour called the Make America Horny Tour. I did not name that tour, and I fought it tooth and nail. That was the tour you went on. You spent a couple of years doing that. It was a job I had already been doing. Most of those clubs I did 4 or 5 times before that. Several of those clubs were in a place before the book. But it was named the Make America Horny Tour. That's what the publicist called it. Can I show J15? I'm sorry, am I talking too fast? It would be nice if you slowed down a bit. That was for your tour? Yes. Can we admit it? J15's admitted into evidence. Can we show that? You advertised your tour with a picture of you and President Trump together from the golf tournament. False. I have no choice how the club advertises, and I never posted this. You did post the Make America Horny Tour. I never used that tagline. I hated it. You continued this strip tour in 2018 then 2019, right? Yes, I continued doing my job, dancing at clubs, which I'd done through 2001. This is a moment in which I will remind everyone we are at an 18 and older advisory, just in case you were wondering. And you traveled throughout America on this Make America Horny Tour, right? Yes. And you were selling yourself to people who hated President Trump as someone who could get President Trump indicted, right? I was not selling myself to anyone. I was performing at clubs and whoever wanted to pay admission. It was not geared towards people only allowed in who hated somebody. These were strip club patrons who had seen me dance. They were fans of my work. A lot of the people I knew from 10 years before. Am I correct that you said your fan base was completely different and that it was middle-aged white men who used to populate your show or buy your movies were gone, and that in your place now were the so-called resistance women, gay couples, immigrants, other social liberals who despised Trump? You said it was pretty much these types of women and it was angry. Do you recall saying that? I did. The climate in the club certainly changed. I was not selling myself to a certain demographic. I was certainly going on stage and doing the shows I had done since I was 21 years old. But now you had a new fan base and were able to get your shows sold. I was just doing my same job I always did. You also got a job on a reality show called The Surreal Life. Yes. You promoted interviews on the show saying you were doing the show so you could tell your whole story, right? Yes. When you said your story, that was supposedly the story of you having relations with Donald Trump. It was the full story of my life and what I'd been through all of this. When you did that and were promoting your story, you said, then I get to tell my story from our side without editors or posing or stripping. And that was the reason I wrote the book, Full Disclosure. People still ask me questions that were in the book. I learned America doesn't read, so you have to put it on reality TV. That was the story you wanted to tell, right? Yes. And the story principally in Full Disclosure was your story of having relations with Donald Trump, right? It was my entire life story. And you tweeted you made $1 million between the book deal and The Surreal Life, right? Yes. You made $200,000 just from appearing on The Surreal Life, right? Yes. And you also participated in making an NBC documentary about yourself, which aired on television just recently, right? Yes. And that involves several years of filming and interviews of you, right? Yes. In order to get you to cooperate with that documentary, the documentary writers paid you for the rights to your book deal, right? They didn't have to get me to cooperate. I initially started filming myself. And then you gave that over, the filming you were having... And then you gave that over, the filming. You were having an affair with the guy who was filming you, right? Objection. Overruled. You can answer. There were 17 people who shot footage of that, including one of them is my husband. And you started having an affair when you were filming it, right? There was one of the cameramen. We started dating and he stopped filming as soon as we started dating. You were married to someone else at the time. I was separated from my husband, and you were in fact paid $125,000 by the documentary people, right? No, I was not. Well, you didn't receive $125,000 for the rights to your book. Nope, not yet. You'd been promised that, you're saying. I'm sorry, what was that? You're saying you were promised that, but you haven't received all the money? I haven't received all the payments, no. Okay, how much have you received? They gave me $100,000 for back footage, but I was not paid for the interview. But you were paid for the rights to your book, right? That was part of my contract. You have to ask my attorney who's sitting there, who did the deal. Okay, but you received $120,000 from the documentary people, right? A lot of it was footage that I had to reimburse cameramen for. So the answer is yes? Not exactly. You're trying to trick me into saying something that's not entirely true. You're still grossing over $125,000, right? Supposed to be. Where did you deposit that money? Into my business account. You've also been holding viewing parties at bars to view the documentary, right? Yes. And you've been selling tickets to that, right? Yes. And that's another way you're making money off of the documentary and off of this story, right? Which I haven't actually made any profit. It covers my travel expenses and security. No profit. When you say covers your travel and expenses, you're traveling to go to those viewing parties, right? Yes, it's all part of the promotion for the film. And you have become a hero at those parties to Trump haters, right? I don't know. I don't speak for other people. Well, didn't you say people come up and they're so emotional and put so much on me? They're like, you're going to save the world. You're the patriot. You're the hero, right? You're misconstruing that quote from when I was in a strip club. People said that. That's not from a viewing party. The documentary was actually very polarizing for people. So that's from a strip club that people would come up and say, you're my hero, right? I'm quoting a lot of women who came up to me in 2018 while I was on stage. But you're continuing to this date and continuing making money selling a story that you promised will put President Trump in jail, right? No. Well, isn't it a fact that you keep posting on social media how you're going to be instrumental in putting President Trump in jail? Show me where I said I would be instrumental in putting President Trump in jail. All right. If we could show the witness J43, please. Do you recognize that as your post? Yes. And I don't see the word instrumental or jail. Your Honor, I offer that into evidence. Any objections? No. Accepted into evidence. Just 1 month ago, if we could read this, you were responding to a post, someone else's post. There. Yes, someone calling me a human toilet, so I capitalized on the joke. All right, I'm going to need a tea break before we get into this, everybody. Hold on to your hats. Friendly reminder, we are at an 18 plus age restriction tonight. Here we go. I'm giving my mother time to click off. The other post, Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels, aka the human toilet, and are their star witnesses, right? Yes. You said, exactly, making me into the best person to flush the orange bleep down. Yes. I don't see instrumental or jail there. You're putting words in my mouth. So when you said you're the best person to flush the orange down, you weren't saying you were going to be instrumental in causing him to be convicted of a crime? That was not what you meant? No. What does that mean? I'm pretty sure that this is hyperbole. If someone calls me a toilet, I say I can flush somebody. See how that works? It goes around. You said you were going to flush President Trump. I didn't say President Trump. It says orange turd. So if that's what's interpreted by you, what do you mean? I don't know what I mean. You have no idea. I'm also not a toilet, so it's all... I'm going to ask you, you knew what you meant when you said an orange turd. Yes, I do. What did you mean? I meant I'm not a human toilet, so if they want to make fun of me, I can make fun of them. You don't want to admit that you meant Mr. Trump? I absolutely meant Mr. Trump. Why did you say no? I didn't say instrumental or putting him in jail. Can we let the witness complete her answers, please? Did you finish answering the question? Can you ask your question again? Can we have that read back? So, what's the rest of the question? I did answer it. That was your whole answer? You finished answering the question? I believe so. All right. If we could pull up for witness J43, J44. That's your post, correct? Yes. That's also part of the same post, correct? I'm not sure. Well, you see, because it says it was suspended. Yes. But you see how your post is right above that? Yes. And then you're responding to the post below that, right? Yes. Okay. I can't tell if it's something's missing or not. Though, because it says from a suspended account. Okay, it says from a suspended account. You understand you can get old posts before it was suspended on the internet? If somebody screenshots it, do you recognize that as something you responded to? I responded to hundreds of tweets like this, calling me names. Most, I'm not sure. Referring to the page before. Your Honor, I offer the first page in as evidence. I object. Can we approach? I just can't be sure. Sure. Whereupon the following proceedings were held at sidebar. What's happening here? Miss Necklace is putting in half pieces of these texts, posts. They are in response to, as she has just said, threats from other people. Here, she's not clear what she's responding to. Previously, Miss Necklace has done the same thing. On Tuesday, she put in half of a tweet without putting in what she's responding to. It's creating an impression with the jury. We have Miss Daniels' testimony. She's not sure exactly what she's responding to. Given this scenario, whether it's an account of what she's responding to, she's responded to hundreds of thousands of threatening tweets. The other part stands on its own. If you want, we'll call a witness on our direct case and say this. That wouldn't get it in. You want to get in a portion of her response without letting us know what she's responding to? I was trying to put the whole thing in. I have the whole thing there. The whole thing is her response and a deleted post. But it shows up on the internet from the Wayback Machine, and I can put it in on our case. It still won't tell us what the post was. It does. Page 2 tells us the post that she was responding to. You can do that later. I'll do it in my case. That's fine. Whereupon the following proceedings were held in open court. Sustained. Miss Daniels, when President Trump was indicted on this case, you celebrated on Twitter by repeatedly tweeting and pushing merchandise that you were selling in your store, right? I tweeted about his being indicted, yes, and people wanted to ask how they could support me, so I tweeted the link to my store. You have an online store where you sell merchandise, right? Sure. I want to show what's been marked as J22, please. You recognize that? That's the first page of a tweet by you. Yes? That's a tweet by you as well? Yes. I offer those into evidence, Your Honor. No objection. Accepted into evidence. Am I correct that first tweet you said, "Thank you everyone for your support and love. I have so many messages coming in that I can't respond. Also, I don't want to spill my champagne," right? Yes. What you're saying is you're drinking champagne because you're celebrating that President Trump was indicted, right? Yes. Then you said Team Stormy merchandise autograph orders are pouring in too. Thank you for that as well. But allow a few extra days for shipment, correct? Yes. This was on March 30th that you said this, right? Yes. That was you selling your merchandise, right? That is me doing my job. Selling your merchandise, right? Which is part of my job, yes. You said new merchandise is now in the store. Yes, photos and comics are autographed in celebration of new indictments. All orders in the next 45 hours will get a free surprise gift, correct? Correct. Again, you're celebrating the indictment by selling things from your store, right? Not unlike Mr. Trump. Pushing your stuff so that you can sell it, right? Absolutely. I'm not allowed to sell anybody else's things. In fact, you have online stores that has much of the merchandise as you bragging about how you got President Trump indicted, right? I got President Trump indicted? Well, aren't you bragging about that in the items that you're selling? No. I want to show you what's been marked as J24. That's the item you're selling in your store, is it not? Yes. I offer that into evidence, Your Honor. No objection. Accepted into evidence. That's one of the items you're selling in your store, something called Stormy, Saint of Indictments candle, right? Yes. That was made from a store in New Orleans. You're saying that's not you bragging about how you are the saint of a person who got President Trump indicted? No, I'm not bragging. I think it's funny that a store made those for me to sell. So I put those on my site. And you're making $40 on each of those, right? No, I'm actually making about $7. You're also selling Team Stormy merchandise, right? Yes. I show you what's been marked as J24. I'm sorry, here. You recognize that as another item you sell in your store? Yes. The next page, you recognize that as another item you sell in your store? Yes. I offer all that into evidence. No objection. Accepted into evidence. We have the court reporter being relieved here. Moving forward. If we can turn back to page 2, back onto cross-examination. And that's Team Stormy merchandise. That's an example of the Team Stormy merchandise, right? Yes. And there are a number of them, right? Yes. And Team Stormy is the side who is opposed to President Trump. It is whoever is on my side. And your side means your side against President Trump, right? Not exclusively. You have a $30 comic book called Stormy Daniels' Political Power comic book, right? Yes. And when you're talking about political power, you're talking about you fighting against President Trump, right? Keep in mind, I did not write this comic book, but you're selling it, right? Yes. A large part of your livelihood for a bunch of years now has been making money off the story that you had relations with President Trump and that you will help President Trump be convicted, right? No. Well, you testified on direct examination that there are 2 books you're working on right now, right? Yes. And what are those 2 books about? One's called Rockstar, Corn Star. It is about my partner. He's a musician who became a corn star. And the other one is a novel about a girl who grew up in New Orleans. It's nonfiction. I'm sorry, it's fiction. And did that person, that girl in the novel, have an affair with a presidential candidate? No. And do you plan to continue to make money off of selling your story? Apologize. Tea break, everyone. Oh my God. All right. Sweet mother of... All right. I am a professional. And do you plan to continue to make money off of selling your story? I plan to continue to do my job and to fund my extraordinary legal bills. And is there another way that you're making money now, which is by telling people that you have the ability to communicate with ghosts and dead people, right? I work on a television show called, well, the title's changed, but it used to be called Spooky Babes. Well, my question was, are you making money by telling people that you have the ability to communicate with ghosts and dead people? Well, I am making money. Well, I haven't made any money yet, but the idea is to make money on a television show about the paranormal and UFOs and the unexplained. Well, you have made a show and a podcast claiming you can speak to dead people, right? I have been on a lot of podcasts. Well, my question, which podcast are you referring to? And are you saying that you've not made a show or a podcast telling people you can speak to dead people? Yes, we are talking about the paranormal, yes. And you also claim that you live in a house in New Orleans that's haunted and that the spirits that are in the house attacked your boyfriend and held him underwater, right? Yes. So the house has some very unexplained activity. We brought in experts, people to measure the electromagnetic fields, the religious experts, scientists, people to check for gas leaks. So yeah, it was a lot of interesting and unexplained activity. So I created a whole entire show. Your Honor, a lot of the activity was completely debunked, as you know, a giant opossum that was under the house, for instance. Your Honor, I move to strike all of that and ask that the witness be instructed to answer the question. No, overruled. And so my question was that you claimed that you lived in a house in New Orleans that was haunted and that spirits attacked your boyfriend. Is that correct? Yes. And then you say your boyfriend attacked you, right? Yes. And isn't it a fact that you were the one who attacked your boyfriend? Objection. Sustained. We discussed, Counselor, we discussed this. No, we did not. Not about this, Your Honor. Please move on. But Your Honor, this is not the same thing. Please move on. And shortly thereafter, your boyfriend moved out, right? Define shortly. Objection, Your Honor. Sustained. Well, didn't your boyfriend question your sanity? Objection. Sustained. And you've been making money off of your claim that you are a medium and that you can talk to the dead, right? I am making money I am part of a ghost hunting team, and we go into locations, yeah? And you read tarot cards for clients, right? Yeah, a lot of my fans like to do things called high tea and tarot with Stormy Daniels, and we read tarot cards together. And you charge people for that, right? Yes. And you claim to be able to speak to people's dead relatives, right? I make them agree that it's all entertainment, right? And that's what you charge them for. Yes. But you claim you tell people that that's what you can do, right? Speak to their dead relatives, right? Objection. Asked and answered. Overruled. You can answer. Yes. And that's what you've made money off of, right? One of the ways, yes. All right, so now before you started making a living talking with dead people and selling your story with about President Trump, you were an actress, a corn actress, right? Yes. And you've acted in corn movies in 200 films, right? Including compilations. And you've also written and directed 150 adult films, you said in your direct. Is that correct? Give or take. I tell you, this is not how I imagined I'd be using my law degree, everybody. I'm sorry, I just needed a moment. All right, here we go. And so this was your career for over 20 years, writing, acting, and directing adult films, right? Yes. So you have a lot of experience in making up phony stories about... And so you have a lot of experience in making phony stories about certain acts appear to be real, right? Wow, that's not how I would put it. The acts in the films, it's very much real, just like what happened to me in that room. All right, but you're making fictionalized stories about acts. You write those stories. No, the act is real. The character names might be different, but the act is very real. That's why it's this, and that's a B movie. Okay, you testified on direct that these films have plots, right? Some of them do. And the plots are fake, right? Some of them are based off of truth. And they are movies, right? Of course. And you've been writing these stories about acts, right? Yes. Of course. I'm just bothered because I like corn and it's really disturbing me. I had corn for dinner. And then you act them out, right? Sometimes. Sometimes I just direct. And you have a lot of experience in memorizing these fictional stories and repeating them, right? I have experience in repeating stories, of memorizing stories. I do a lot of that, but not just about acts. I'm pretty sure we all can do that. Who's giving me corn? Stop giving me corn. All right. All right. Whew. Just checking my battery, everyone. Okay. My battery on my phone. And you've bragged about how good you are at writing corn movies and writing really good stories and writing really good dialogue, right? Yes. And now you have a story you've been telling about having acts with President Trump, right? And if the story was untrue, if that story was untrue, I would have written it a lot better. Because you're a good story writer, right? I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Because you're a good story writer, right? I'm a good screenwriter. And that story was enough. You made that real enough sounding, so you made millions of dollars, right? I didn't have to write this one. But it's made you millions of dollars, right? My God, the corner. Seriously, everyone. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my goodness. All right. The corn. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, thank you everyone for the lovely presents. No. So you're saying now that you could have written a better story and made more money? I'm saying I didn't make millions of dollars and I didn't write this story. Well, you made over $1 million on your books and your film or the surreal life, right? Well, some money amassed, but that's not millions. And you've also made money selling merchandise, right? Yes. And you've made money on your 2-year tour of act clubs, right? I don't work in act clubs. I work in strip clubs. So that's a big difference. You made money on your 2-year tour working in strip clubs, right? Yes. And you made money from the documentary, right? Yes. Okay, and when you prepared for your testimony with the prosecutor in this case, you had a number of meetings with them, right? Wow, I just got whiplash, everybody. Whiplash. Is the card still coming? Yes. And they told you that they wanted you to testify lots of details so that your story would sound credible, right? Yes. And do you recall that when you testified on direct examination, you gave a whole description of what you had to say, of what you say the tile in President Trump's hotel suite looked like, right? Yes. And you included what you said the tile on the floor looked like and that it was black and white, right? Yes. And then Ms. Hoffinger asked you, did you mention anything about the floor? Do you recall her asking you that? I think so. And you responded the black and white tile, and she said, did you mention that? Do you recall that? Yeah. And that had been part of your prep, that you were supposed to include certain details in your testimony, right? There's nothing wrong with prepping a witness. I would hope that any attorney would do that. Okay, that wasn't my question. My question about a tile. That had been part of your prep, that you were supposed to include certain details in your testimony, right? Truthful facts, yes. Don't forget the facts. That's all I was ever told to do. And those were details that matched what you wrote in your book, right? I would have to see, but probably. Well, you were prepped so that with the prosecutor, so that you would try to match things to your book so that you would look more credible, right? Well, I don't need to match things to my books because it's the same story. And my story hasn't changed when it comes to those details. And you know that there's no way to check on the details of what you claim happened, right? No, I did not know that. Well, this supposed encounter that you testified about supposedly occurred 18 years ago, right? Yes. And it was just you supposedly and President Trump in that hotel suite, right? And his bodyguard you said was outside the hotel suite, right? With the doors open, and it was on the same floor. You said the doors were open a crack, right? And then I opened it. He walked in, and the same thing when I exited. Well, he didn't walk in, right? No, but he stood right there and watched me walk in. And he was standing outside the doors, right? Yes. And you said in your book that the suite took the entire floor of the hotel. I don't know if it took the whole floor, but it had its own elevator. So you got on the elevator, and that was the only suite there? It was right in front of me. Okay, and to be fair, I don't know what was behind me. All right, now, in fact, your story about what happened between you and President Trump has changed a lot over the years, hasn't it? No. Well, let's talk about your story. You said you met President Trump at a celebrity golf tournament in Lake Tahoe, right? Yes. And that tournament was called the American Century Championship, right? I'm not sure. And there were a lot of celebrities and sports figures at the celebrity golf tournament, right? Yes. Aaron Rodgers? I don't know. Dan Quayle? I don't know. I can't remember. Drew Brees? Who? Drew Brees. Oh, I have no idea. Charles Barkley? Yes. Ben Roethlisberger? Yes. And there were many, many other celebrities there too, right? Yes. And the company you worked for, Wicked Productions, was one of the sponsors of the golf tournament, Wicked Pictures. And if there was a golf gift room where there was swag given out by various sponsors of the tournament, yes. And you and the other corn stars who were there took photographs of yourself with a lot of the celebrities, right? We didn't take photos. The people who worked there did, yes, but yes. The people who worked for Wicked Pictures were taking photographs. And for the golf tournament, yeah. And for the golf tournament. And you said on direct you took pictures with every celebrity that came in there, right? Every celebrity that came in to talk to me, I took a photograph with. I don't remember all of their names. And you said that there were dozens of celebrities that you took pictures with, right? I would say so, yes. So the picture that you have, or that was in evidence of you with President Trump, is just one of the dozens of pictures that you took with celebrities, right? Yes. And it was taken in a public place. Yes. And there were no other pictures, semi-publicly. And there were no other pictures with you and President Trump, right? Yeah, right. And you testified on direct that you spoke with President Trump in the gift room, and that after he left, his bodyguard, Keith Schiller, came back and asked you for dinner, right? They hadn't completely left. He walked back. Keith Schiller walked back. Yes. And he was the one who asked you to dinner, right? He asked me on behalf. He didn't ask me to go to dinner with him. He's the one who spoke to you, right? Yes. Keith Schiller, according to you, he didn't say his name was Keith Schiller. He said, I work for Mr. Trump. Okay, but it wasn't the President Trump, according to your testimony, who asked you to dinner. It was his bodyguard. Right. And your testimony was that you said, F no. That you didn't want to go, right? Right. But you gave Keith Schiller your phone number anyway, and that you supposedly entered your phone number and his phone number into your contacts, right? Correct. And according to you later, Mike Mosney, your manager at the time, told you should go out to dinner at the time, right? Correct. But this is a totally different story than what you told in 2011, isn't it? No. Well, in 2011, you gave an interview with In Touch magazine, right? Yes. And you said on direct that was only for 15 minutes. For 15 to 20 minutes, it was a phone call. Wasn't it more like an hour? I don't think so. And didn't you tell In Touch magazine that Donald Trump himself asked if you would have dinner with him? I don't remember saying that. It was Keith. All right. Oh, goodness. And am I correct that you said to In Touch magazine that you first met Donald Trump, it was actually on the golf course? Yes. And that later when he was in the gift room, he came to talk to me and asked for my number, and I gave it to him. Do you recall saying that to In Touch magazine? Yes. So you said that in that magazine in 2011, you said it was Donald Trump who asked you for your number, right? Not Keith Schiller? I didn't specify. I left out the names of all of the other people, not to get them involved. That's why I specifically just said he asked. All right, but he was there. They were together. All right, so you didn't say the first time I met him was actually at the golf courses, right? You said that? Uh-huh. And when you said that you were referring to as Donald Trump, right? Keith was there as well, yes. And you said he was introduced to everyone, and that's Donald Trump, right? Yes. And you said he kept looking at me, and then he ended up riding to another hole in the same golf cart together. And he's like, I want to come talk to you later, right? Uh-huh. That's what you told them? Yes. And that was still President Trump, right? Yes. So still the same person you're talking about. Yes, which he did. He came to talk to me later. And later when he came to the gift room, he came to talk to me and he asked me for my number and I gave it to him. And that's still President Trump, right? I gave my number to his bodyguard on his behalf, yes. Well, that's not what you said in 2011. I didn't specify it in 2011. Well, you haven't mentioned a bodyguard in that paragraph, have you? No. The only he you're talking about, they asked me to not mention other people. Can we let the witness finish? Please. I'm sorry. You can finish your answer. Do you want to hear the question again? Yes, sorry. Can you read back the question? Record read the court reporter read the question again. All right, you can finish your answer. Okay. They tried to get me not to mention other people when they asked me who asked who for whose number or whatever. But it was Keith. He was standing there. He was always with President Trump. All right, so your testimony now is that the reporter didn't want you to mention the name Keith. It wasn't the reporter. Who was it? My publicist. He didn't want his name mentioned. Okay, ex-publicist, sorry. So you say, I went up to the room and I met and I was met outside by his bodyguard, Keith. Keith, yes. So you mentioned Keith's name, right? Yes. But you didn't mention it in the first paragraph, right? Right. In the first paragraph, you're only talking about President Trump, right? It says here, that's how I got in touch with him. I never had Donald Trump's number. I always used Keith. My question was, in the first paragraph, you were only talking about President Trump, right? No. Well, that's the only reference. They were always together like this. But you didn't see that in 2011. When I give my number to someone and vice versa, it goes through my manager or bodyguard. Anyone who has security or a handler knows that they're a unit. Your Honor, I move to strike that. It's her answer, Your Honor. Overruled. And in your 2011 interview with In Touch magazine, you said that, well, you testified yesterday that you were asked to dinner. You said, no effing way, right? That's what you testified on Tuesday, right? Correct. But in your 2011 interview with In Touch magazine, you said that Donald Trump himself asked if you would be able to have dinner with him, right? Like I said, a bodyguard or a handler is a unit. And someone who's speaking on your behalf is the same as being asked directly. And you told the interview that you said, of course, right? Right. You said, then he asked me if I wanted to have dinner that night. And I was like, yeah, of course, right? Yes, those were the words of my publicist, actually, who said to go to dinner with him. He's fascinating. What's the worst that could happen? Well, that's what you said you responded to President Trump that night, right? This is an entertainment magazine. It was a very short and frivolous and very vast difference between someone who is a reality star and the president. This is an abbreviated, entertaining version of the events. Now you're saying that you lied in 2011 when you made this story and that you're telling this story, right? Sustained. This would be the moment in which the court is making his own objection, just to be noted. Okay, you're telling the truth when you gave this story to the interview. It was minus some details. It was a short interview. And then you further told the interviewer who would pass an opportunity to talk to someone so interesting, right? Yes. And so that's what you said in 2011. You were happy to go to dinner with him. Immediately, you were happy to go to dinner with President Trump, right? Yes. And you testified on direct examination on Tuesday that when you supposedly went to President Trump's hotel room, you thought that you were going out for dinner, right? Yes. But your story is that even though you spent over 3 hours in the hotel room, you never got any dinner, right? We never got any food. We never ate, no. And you previously said that you specifically remember this because your stomach was growling, right? Yes. And you wrote in your book, plus I was freaking hungry. I needed a bowl of pretzels at least if I was going to sit through this. You said there was going to be dinner, I thought. This monologue went on for a good 10 or 15 minutes, which is an eternity when your stomach is growling and you're hungry. Yes. And you're saying that this was a big deal that you didn't get dinner, right? I was invited. It was dinner time. I was running hungry. Yeah. We talked about ordering food or going down to get food, and we never got to eat. It was dinner time, and we never ate. And you made a big point on numerous interviews, right? Yeah, I went to go get dinner, and I didn't get dinner. And you gave an interview with Jimmy Kimmel, right? Yes. And you said, actually, we never had dinner. Like, he lied to me. I'm very food motivated. That's why I stayed. And held out for so long because I was told there would be snacks. I was starving. That's what you said, right? Yes. So this was a clear memory that you had that you were not fed dinner and you were starving, right? Right. It was dinner time. I was invited to dinner, but I never actually saw food. But in your 2011 interview with In Touch magazine, you said the opposite, didn't you? I never said we ate. No. So I direct your attention. I remember ordering or asking to order. And do you recall that you said you had dinner with President Trump while you talked about whether he would put you on The Apprentice? I don't have anything here. I'm asking if you recall. I don't. I need to see what I said. All right, so I direct your attention to J28, page 4. Look at the bottom of the page. Do you recall being asked, so this is all conversation while you were eating? And you responded, yeah, like before, during, and after. We hung out for quite a while, a few hours at least, right? What is this from? Okay. Do you recall being asked that and giving an answer? I don't recall exactly. No. Okay, are you saying you didn't say that? I don't remember saying that. And if we could direct your attention to the bottom of page 7. Page 7? And do you recall being asked again, so this was during dinner, and you responding, yeah, during, after, yeah, it was definitely the biggest, longest topic of conversation. Yes. How he could get on me. Sorry. How he could get me on. And it was dinner. I was invited to dinner, and it was dinner time. I maintained I didn't see any food. We didn't go down. We never left the room to go down for dinner. Like I said, my story is the same. So you did say that. You were asked that question, and you gave the answer. It was dinner, but we never got food. So when a reporter asks you this is all during dinner, and you're saying during dinner, meaning it was dinner time, but we didn't eat, correct. I would have definitely mentioned what I ate in all of those interviews. I would have talked about the food. I'm very food motivated. All right, so do you recall being interviewed on the by Anderson Cooper on CNN in 2018, right? Do I remember doing the interview? Yes. And do you recall in that interview you said that you had dinner that night with President Trump in the room? Can I see what I said exactly? You don't have any recollection? I would like to see what I said exactly. You had to testify to all these details about what tiling was on the floor was like on direct examination, but you don't recall what you said in 2018. Objection. Sustained. I will show you what's marked as J12 in directing your attention to page 598. Yes, directing your attention to page 598. And in that interview, you said you had dinner in the room, right? It says, did we go out for dinner? No, you had dinner in the room. Yes. And then I know that I went on to explain that. I didn't actually ever get to eat dinner. You are showing one sentence of an entire conversation. You said that in this interview. You said, well, so isn't it correct that Anderson Cooper said to you, Anderson Cooper, did you two go out for dinner that night? Stormy Daniels. No. Anderson Cooper. You had dinner in the room? Stormy Daniels. Yes. That was a conversation, right? Where's the rest of the conversation? And he said, what happened next, right? That was the conversation about dinner, right? Yes, where we don't talk about receiving food, what I ate, which I definitely would have talked about. Okay, but you said you had dinner in the room, right? I went up to his room to have dinner. Yes, we did not have any food, and I did not eat any food. Okay, so, and I have maintained that in every interview, that I have never actually got my food. And you are saying that has not changed. So you're saying, like, when you said to Anderson Cooper that you had dinner in the room, you really didn't mean that you had dinner. You meant something else, right? We had dinner time in the room. Your words don't mean what you say, do they? Objection. Sustained. And you testified on Tuesday that you and President Trump were staying in a different hotel, right? Yes. He was staying in the Harris Hotel? Yes. And you were staying at the Harvey Hotel, right? I don't remember. Well, the Harvey Hotel you understood that the Harvey Hotel and the Harris Hotel had a common owner, right? What? They had a common ownership. I did not know. Well, that's where the events were taking place in the golf tournament, right? I didn't know. And they were located 1 block from each other, right? I don't remember. And so it was your testimony on direct that you walked and took a car to go 1 block? I went to a tattoo studio shop first to see my friends. And I was wearing heels, and so I took a car the rest of the way. Okay, and at the tattoo studio that was 2 blocks away, right? I don't remember. And isn't it a fact that when you gave an interview to In Touch magazine in 2011, you said that you remember walking from the hotel to his hotel? I don't remember exactly. Like I said, it was an abbreviated interview. I did make a stop at a tattoo shop for like an hour. Okay, I'll show you what's been marked as J28. And by the way, this abbreviated interview is 29 pages long, right? I don't know. I mean, there are photos, and who knows? And directing your attention to page 4, the bottom paragraph. Well, I want to direct your attention to the top part of this. Just going back a minute. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the top. Do you recall saying during that interview we ended up having dinner in the room? I cannot remember what we ordered. I remember I had the second time I had dinner with him, but I can't remember what we had. Do you recall saying that? Hang on. You said that in an interview, didn't you, Miss Daniels? Yeah, it says I don't remember ordering anything or what I ordered, if anything. But you say twice there we had dinner in the room, right? Yes, like I said, it was dinner time in the room. So you're saying that when you said we had dinner, you did not mean that, right? I'm saying, Abe, once again, I had dinner in his room, but we never got our food, and I never ate anything. Okay, having dinner with someone, at least where I'm from, doesn't necessarily mean that you have to put food in your mouth. I'm going to someone's house for dinner. It's dinner time. And isn't it a fact that when you wrote in your book, you said that you walked from your hotel to President Trump's hotel? I walked halfway there, or I think I went in the opposite direction first. And you don't see anything in your book about taking a car, right? I don't remember exactly. But when you were interviewed by the prosecutors in this case, the first time you told them that President Trump's bodyguard sent a car to pick you up and to take you to the room, didn't you? I don't know how the car got there or who sent it specifically. I have no way of knowing who I was speaking to, who sent the car. Well, when you testified on Tuesday, you said that you called a car. And you said you walked and then you called a car. I called for a car? I don't know how the car was called. I told them that I was going, that I needed a car. I don't know if they called the car. I don't remember. I know it was before Uber, obviously. The details of your story keep changing, right? No, I took a car from the tattoo shop to his hotel. Okay, and then you testified on direct examination that when you supposedly entered the suite, that President Trump came from the main area of the hotel suite and met you in the foyer, right? Yes. And you say that there were the elevator, no, withdrawn. But when you were interviewed in 2011 for In Touch magazine, you said that when you walked to the hotel suite, President Trump was all sprawled on the couch watching television or something, right? I don't remember saying that. Well, if you could look at J28 and directing your attention to page 4, do you recall? Well, let's start at the bottom of page 3. You say, I went in and I was all dressed up. Sorry, everyone. I'm off for a minute. You said, I went in and I was all dressed up because I had just assumed that we were going to go to dinner, but he meant to have dinner in his room, like he wasn't dressed. And then if I could direct your attention to page 4, to go out at all, just lounging. I remember taking a jab at him. I remember saying, because he was sprawled out on the couch watching television or something and he was wearing pajama pants. Do you remember saying that? Yes. I walked in. He was on the couch. He heard me come in. He got up and he greeted me in the foyer. I see. So you said he was all sprawled on the couch there, and now you're saying, but he got up. That's what you're saying now? He did both. He greeted me from the foyer. He came from the inside, from where the couches and things were. I assumed he was watching television, but he definitely wasn't getting dressed. Okay, but you didn't say that in your 2011 interview, did you? No, I did not. Like I said, it was shorter. It was a shorter interview. Okay, and you testified on direct. Your Honor, is this a good time for a break? I would like to go a little longer, says the judge. Let's take a tea break for one moment, everyone. And I am going to check my battery real quick. I would like to get us through to the next break here. So I am going to continue on. I can't take it off, Frank. We'll get to the next break, everyone. I think we can. We can do it. Oh, my goodness. And there are still quite a few interesting turns here. So, all right, here we go. All right, here we go. Let's jump back in. We're gonna get there. I'm determined to get through this testimony. Had to make a sandwich. Absolutely, absolutely. And the court says, I'd like to go a little longer. You testified on direct that after being in President Trump's hotel suite for several hours, you went to the bathroom, right? Correct. And you claim that when you came out of the bathroom, he was on the bed in a t-shirt and boxer shorts, right? Yes. Just 1 minute before we get to that, I want to go back to where President Trump was when you entered the hotel suite room. Do you recall you wrote a book about this? Right? Yes. And do you recall when you said, when you opened the door, withdrawn? Let's just go back to the room. You say you came out of the bathroom and he was on the bed in a t-shirt and boxer shorts, right? Yes. And according to you, when you saw him sitting on the bed, you became faint and the room started to spin and the blood left your hands and feet. Yes? Yes. I was in shock, surprise. So just so I can be clear on what you're saying, you've acted and had acts in over 200 corn movies, right? 150-ish, yes. And there are men and women having acts, including yourself, in these movies, right? Yes. But according to you, seeing a man sitting on a bed in a t-shirt and boxer shorts was so upsetting that you got lightheaded, blood left your hands and feet, and you almost fainted, right? Yes, when you're not expecting a man twice your age to be in their underwear, I have seen my husband naked almost every day. If I came out of the bathroom and it was not my husband and it was Mr. Trump on the bed, I would probably have the same reaction. And that made you feel like you were going to faint? Absolutely. If I came out of the bathroom and saw an older man in his underwear and I wasn't expecting to see that, yeah. And according to you, earlier that evening, you had been bossing President Trump around and telling him to change his clothes out of pajamas and to stop talking about himself, right? That was hours before, yeah. I guess it was seeing a man in his underwear that you're not expecting to be there when you're not expecting him to be there. And you're a pretty assertive woman, right? More so now. Well, you have been working since you were 18, right? 17, and you've had to take care of yourself since you're 17, right? Yes, ma'am. And some of the places you are working in are pretty tough places to work in, right? Sometimes. And you've taken care of yourself that whole time, right? Mostly, yes. And you said that you even thought he was twice your age. You had no problem bossing him around that whole day, right? Yes. When I felt like I had control of the situation and I had an exit, and this was definitely a power shift. Well, in your book, in fact, you wrote that you had made him your bleep, right? I did earlier. Those were your words, right? You had made him your bleep. Yes, right? Yes, because you were so powerful, right? I used to think so. But now, because he was supposedly in a t-shirt and boxer shorts, you were so upset that he wanted to have acts with you that you couldn't speak up and say that you didn't want to have acts with him. Correct. Right? Correct. The man who you claimed I made him my beep, but I can't say no to having acts with him, supposedly, right? Yes. This was not the first time in your life someone had made a pass at you, was it? No. And you testified on direct examination. But it was the first time that they had a bodyguard standing outside the door and that they were in their underwear. Sorry, everyone. Tea break for a quick moment here. Okay, and they were twice my age and bigger than me. Okay, and you understand there's no question pending. Objection, Your Honor. Sustained. And you testified on direct that Mr. Trump got out of the bed and stood between you and the door to the exit of the bedroom and said something like, I thought we were getting somewhere and we were talking. I thought you were serious about what you wanted if you ever wanted to get out of that trailer park. Those were your words. You said that he said. Yes. And you said you blacked out and the next thing you remember was being on the bed. Yes. But when you were interviewed in 2011 in Touch magazine, you told a completely different story, didn't you? No. Well, when you were interviewed in 2011, you said that when you came out of the bathroom, Donald Trump was sitting on the bed and he said, blah, blah, blah. And you were like, oh, blah, blah, blah. And then you said, blah, 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 blah. That's the story that you told in 2011, isn't it? Like I said, there are parts in the middle that I don't remember. Well, isn't that the story that you told in 2011, right? I don't remember exactly what I said. Okay, so I'm going to direct your attention to J28, page 8. I will say, everyone, I have been very careful to block out quite a few phrases here, again, to keep this PG friendly. And we are set at an 18 plus age for tonight. Okay. And do you recall saying, I had to use the bathroom and I went to the restroom, which was in the bedroom. Like I said, it was a big suite. I could describe the suite perfectly. When I came out and he was sitting on the bed and he was like something and I was like something and we started something. I actually don't even know why I did it, but I do remember while we were doing something, I was like, please don't try to pay me. And then I remember thinking, but if he did pay me, I bet no. But I bet if he did pay me, it'd be a lot. That's what you said to In Touch magazine in 2011, right? Correct. Yes, because I wasn't trying to get money and he did say something. Nothing about him standing up, right? No, I didn't. I mean, it's not here. This was an abbreviated article. But he did stand up and he was between me and the door and Keith was outside the door and I don't remember. And then I remember we were in some stuff and that's what I remember. You remember what you said to withdrawn. We can only have one person speaking at a time. So what you said to In Touch magazine was we started kissing, right? Yes. Nothing about him standing up, right? But it also doesn't say that I got on the bed. This is an abbreviated version. He stood up, then something happened. It was edited for clearing. It doesn't say he stood up, did he? Did it? No, it doesn't say that he stood up either. You said that he said something. He did. He said something, meaning you should do something. He stood up and said something. It doesn't say that, does it? No, it doesn't. And then you said something, right? Yes. Nothing about if you want to get what you want to get, you better go along with this, right? They left a lot of stuff out because they couldn't fact check it. I do remember them telling me that. Can jurors object? No, unfortunately not. And nothing about the trailer park, right? No. And you made all of this up, right? No. And by the way, you weren't drinking anything that night, just water. No other things, right? Absolutely no. But you blacked out, right? I got lightheaded. I never blacked out. I didn't hit the floor. Everything spun and went black. But no, I wasn't given any substances. I did not take any substances. And I did not believe that there was any drinkable substances in the room. And in 2011, you said that you were fascinated and something by President Trump and you had really good banter and that you could tell he was nice, intelligent. He was nice, intelligent in conversation, right? It was a nice, intelligent conversation. Yes. That's what you said, right? Yes. And nothing about him threatening you with a trailer park, right? That was after I came out of the bathroom. There was no more conversation. The conversation was intelligent and interesting. I enjoyed it. And you were interviewed for Slate magazine by Mr. Westberg in 2018, right? I'm not sure that was his name. Okay, let me show you J45. It was 2018 interview with Jacob Westberg, right? Yes, that's what it says. And this story gets published, right? After the Wall Street Journal article, right? I believe so, yes, January 16th. Oh, thank you, Desert Skies. I am determined to get to this next break and this testimony. The Wall Street Journal article, you recall, was in January 12th. January 12th, yes, ma'am. on January 12th of 2018, and this was on January 16th to January 18th. Is that right? That's what it says. And am I correct that you told Mr. Westberg that there was stuff, what happened with President Trump, and that you're not a victim, right? Yes. And this is what you were saying in 2018, right? Yes. And you said that the worst that Trump had done was break promises you believed that he would fulfill, right? Yes. And you told Westberg that President Trump offered to buy you a condo in Tampa, Florida, and that he wanted to feature you as a contestant on an upcoming season of Celebrity Apprentice, right? Yes. You didn't say anything to Mr. Westberg about you supposedly blacking out or not remembering how you ended up doing some stuff. Correct. You said that the worst thing he did was he didn't give you a condo, right? Yes. I never wanted this stuff. Oh, you didn't want this stuff? No, not in Tampa. Well, you said the worst thing he did was he didn't put you on Celebrity Apprentice, right? I said the worst thing he did was he lied. And you said nothing about the power imbalance or that you were scared or that there was a bodyguard standing outside the door, right? No, I said the worst thing that he did was lie. That's my feelings. Okay, and you were also, I blame myself. And you didn't say anything about for feeling that way. And you didn't say anything about feeling those things that you had just described happen. Can you please let the witness finish, Your Honor? Overruled. I think she was done. Overruled. And I'm sorry, what did you say? You didn't say anything about feeling faint in there when all this happened. No, because the question was what Mr. Trump did. And Mr. Trump did not do anything involving substances to me, and he did not, and that was how I felt. The worst thing that he had done was lie in that moment. Right, and so you were also interviewed by Vogue magazine in 2018, right? Yes. And isn't it correct that you asked, did Trump do something that made you feel like you had to have acts with him? And you responded, no, nothing, right? Yes. And so in 2018, you said that there was nothing that he did to make you feel like that you had to have acts with him. But on Tuesday on direct exam, you testified that he made nasty comments and stood over you and you felt the power shift, right? I never said he stood over me. He stood in front of me and I was not below him or on the floor. So you were saying when you testified on Tuesday that his actions made you feel like you had to have acts with him, right? My own insecurities made me feel that way. I have maintained that he has not. He did not put his hands on me. He did not give me any sort of substances or drinkable substances, and he did not hold any kind of other kind of thing or sort of thing in order to force me to do anything. And I have said that, and I've maintained that. I was not physically threatened or various other things. But these nasty, supposed nasty comments that he made and standing up over you, those comments were not what you were saying in 2018, right? Objection. Overruled. You can answer. Those statements are exactly what I said. You said, and I said, he thought that I was on the same page about going in onto the television show. That's exactly what it is. In 2018, he lied about that and stood in front of me, and he never had any intention of. My question to you is just, in 2018, you didn't say anything of that to anybody, did you? Which part? That he stood in front of me and said, I thought you wanted to prove that you could do this? That's exactly what he said. You didn't say that in the Cold article, right? When I asked you about whether you said that to anybody, do you understand my question? No, I don't. Okay, in 2018, you didn't tell the Cold writer that President Trump was supposedly said that to you, did you? I said that he promised me a part in the Celebrity Apprentice. He thought I was intelligent and would do whatever it takes. My own insecurities in that moment kept me from saying no. You didn't say that. I have maintained that he did not physically threaten me in any way. Okay, you claim that's in the article, in the Cold article. Just checking my battery one last time here, everyone. Okay, we have 3 pages, all right? 3 pages. We're gonna get there. All right, here we go. And I don't know what's in the cold article, but my story hasn't changed. You didn't say that then, did you? I don't know. And now in 2024, your story's changed, hasn't it? No, not at all. You're trying to make me say that it changed, but it hasn't. And I want to talk about that night after the evening that you claimed you had acts with President Trump. So the American Century Championship, which is a golf celebrity tournament, which had celebrities in both hotels. And so they had parties and events, right? Several. Yeah. And in fact, you testified that many of the parties were in your hotel, right? I don't know which parties were part of the event and not, but there were parties in both hotels. Well, you testified, I have no way of knowing which parties were sanctioned for that. You testified that there was an auction in your hotel of celebrity items, and there were a couple of auctions. Yeah? And you said there was a nightclub in the hotel. Bar, restaurant, nightclub things, yeah. And you testified that, well, you have said that President Trump called you from his bodyguard's phone and invited you to come have drinks with him at a nightclub downstairs in the hotel that night, right? Yes, I said yes. And you said you met him in the VIP area and that Trump was there with Roethlisberger and Keith Schiller were there. He was sitting in a booth with Roethlisberger. Yes. And while you were there, you talked and you went and talked with them, right? Yes. And while you were there, you talked about The Apprentice, right? Very briefly, yes. And you testified on direct that conversation, that encounter lasted for about 10 minutes, right? I would say so. But in your book, you said you were there for about an hour, right? The conversation, Mr. Trump left first. He was there for like maybe 10 or 15 minutes. Well, in your book, didn't you say a max of an hour? Max an hour, yeah. And President Trump left you alone with Roethlisberger, right? Yes. And you said that at that point, you really believed that President Trump wanted you to be on The Celebrity Apprentice, correct? I did at the time, yes. And that was because of the conversation, right? Which conversation? Well, the conversation in the nightclub, that was one of the conversations, right? That was one of them, yeah. And then there were other conversations on the phone as well, right? About that? I only had 2 conversations by that time. At the incident, which was the nightclub, I only had 2 conversations by the time at that incident, which was in the nightclub. The one the night before and the one sitting in the moment. Roethlisberger, thank you so much. You're saving me. It's painful every time. Okay, so based on those 2 conversations, yes. And you had other conversations later. And you said you told Jimmy Kimmel, in fact, didn't you, that you thought President Trump thought that it would be great for the ratings, right? Uh-huh. And that's what your discussions were with him, right? And that's what he told me, yes. And that's what you talked about on your phone calls with President Trump, right? Partially, yes. And also talked about when you went to Trump Tower, right? Yes. And by the way, you took a selfie of yourself and your friend in his office in Trump Tower, right? Well, my friend did. And that was in 2007, right? Yes. But you have no other pictures with President Trump other than that one picture, right? With her. We took a picture with him at the Trump vodka party in his office. And in his office, I didn't physically take them. My friends did. The Trump vodka party was a party where he invited lots of minor celebrities, right? Yes. And that was all public, right? Yes. And then you also you asked for tickets to the Miss USA pageant, right? I'm sorry, what was that? You also asked for tickets to the Miss USA beauty pageant, right? Yes. And you went with your agent too, right? Yes, I went with my agent. And that was also in public, right? Yes. But I did not speak with him there. Miss Nicholas, would you like to take a break? Yes. All right, jurors, let's go ahead and take our morning break. Let's take about 15 minutes. You can all step out. Court officer, leave your notepads. All rise. All right, everybody. Oh, my goodness. Okay, I'm going to have to call it. I'm going to have to call it tonight. This is the most I can read. Phew. All right, everyone. So We've only got just a little bit left of Miss Daniels' testimony, but I will definitely be able to continue on with our next witness on the next live. So, oh, thank you all so much. Oh, thank you. Yes, but it's his brand. No, don't make me laugh. Oh, you did great. Oh, thank you so much. I know. It really was a lot, everybody. It really was a lot. I will make sure to mark this so I pick up here when I come back on and do another live again. So what are our thoughts? I think we're getting a lot more information. And honestly, it seems like Miss Daniels is really, she's sticking to her story pretty much. I mean, I can't even see. This attorney is trying every single way to kind of go around, and she's doing what you're supposed to do as an attorney on a cross-examination and try to figure out a way to trip up that witness. But I didn't see anything. I didn't see her tripping it up. She held her own like a champ. I agree, Frank. I agree. Oh, tons of victim blaming, Suze. Absolutely. I agree. Being hyper focused on the little details, and it's not right because the thing is, if you mess one of the things a lot of witnesses worry about when we get them ready for trial, one of the things they worry about is I may not get the date right, or I may not get the time right, or every little detail correct. And that's not necessarily something that's going to throw a jury off. If you miss the time by a little bit, especially something that happened 20 years ago, that's not what's going to throw the jury off. You can just say simply, I just don't remember. I think it was 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, but it's been 20 years. I don't quite remember. So those kind of details are not what's going to take your credibility away. But by remembering those details, it gives you credibility. And so I think what the defense was trying to do was say, hey, how'd you remember all these details when the state asked you, but not when I asked you? And I think it absolutely backfired. So we choose the bear. Well, one of many reasons. I don't think she was discredited. Cecilia, I agree. Aren't you supposed to know the answer to any question you ask? Well, I would say I would say 85% of the time. All right, 85%, 15% of the time you're gambling. And because you have to, because you can't possibly know every answer. And there are some questions that you may ask where you're not going to know the answer, but the trick is then you need to pull back into the area you do know an answer, or you can go and try to find your gold nuggets. So, and that can really lead you down a very perilous road, because if you're asking questions you don't know the answer to, you might end up getting a gold nugget, but then you can also get way off track, and the jury may not go with you on your adventure. They might say, like, why are you asking all these questions? This doesn't seem relevant at all. Yes, exactly. And I thought it was interesting. Again, we've got Judge Mershon in here objecting. He put his own objection in, was like, stop it, knock it off. And there were multiple times when defense was like, that can be stricken from the record. And he's like, no, it's not going to be stricken from the record. No. So I thought we all want off the dinner road. True. And Trump thought, I don't know what, I cannot begin to imagine what Mr. Trump thinks is beneficial to him. I just don't know. The audio slip was reading an accident. I do. I don't think the audio slip hurt them. I think it's just one of those things when you're in trial, when you're in the thick of it, you're trying to get your point across. You're trying to get your questions asked. You're trying to get your points made to the jury. And you've got all these exhibits to back up what you're saying, which is great. But sometimes, they're messed up. Sometimes you don't have the exact thing that you need at the right time. And I think that the judge was saying, like, hey, both of you, watch, make sure you know what you're putting up before you put it up. So what kind of stone is it? Oh, my mood ring. My mood ring for tonight. Yes, I mean, that's happened before. I remember, oh my gosh, everybody. I remember I was doing some kind of a presentation. It was a B&E, and I had, for some reason, in order to stay awake, because I had been working on this for a really long time and getting everything ready, so I put little sound effects of like breaking glass, just, to make myself laugh as I'm like 3 in the morning and I'm putting all my stuff together. But then I go into court and I had not removed the sound effects, and that's incredibly prejudicial. For someone to hear you arguing on a B&E case, and then the next slide that came in and it was like shattering glass. I'm like, oh my gosh, Your Honor, I need a minute. So I had to delete the sound effects because that was too prejudicial. But sometimes you just make mistakes like that. We're people, we make mistakes. Sometimes it's strategic, but sometimes we just screw stuff up. So yeah, that was definitely, I was like, can we turn off the audio? Why is the audio on? We screw up. That's why it's the practice of law, right? We're constantly, making mistakes, then doing better the next time. But I don't recommend putting sound effects on any of your presentations, especially when it involves a B&E of a liquor store. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it can go too far. Well, hello, Cody. Thanks for coming. Good to see you. But yeah, I think it was an accident. And even if it wasn't, I don't think it was too prejudicial. I think it really gave the judge a minute, though, to remind both of them, like, hey, we've got a lot of documents. We've got a lot of things here. Make sure that you're citing the right thing before you put it up on the screen. I think the jury was thinking about the line of questioning about the no food at dinner. Great question, Annette. And so I think, defense counsel was trying to say, I think what she was trying to say was, in this article, you said it was during dinner, but yet you're saying you didn't have dinner with Mr. Trump. So which is it, right? So it's a credibility question. But this idea that, you can go somewhere and it can be dinner time, but not actually eat dinner, I think that hurt her case more than it helped, because Stormy was so clear. I didn't have any food. I'm food oriented. There was no food. And so the more that defense counsel really went after that, like she was really mining for some gold there. She was really trying to be like, oh yeah, I guess we did have dinner, like she was trying to really go after that. I think it hurt her case, because I think Stormy was just really put her foot down and was like, if something was said, it was wrong, because I didn't have any food. There was no food. That woman was hungry. Exactly. I was hungry. There was no food. That was rude. She made it pretty clear. And I think that helped Stormy's credibility rather than really going after it. Yes, I do post to my Tube of You. I did not have anything posted today, but tomorrow I should have multiple Stormy pieces done tomorrow. So the David Pecker posts are up. The Miss Hill, so her posts are up, and then so Stormy's are next. So her post should be up. Is it typical for the side questioning to ask for a break? Great question. Anyone can ask for a break. And, I know, like, if you're looking at kind of our dramas, everything is really very timed carefully because of it's in the movies. But in reality, any side, if you're tired, if you're going through a point where you're like, oh my gosh, there have been times before where I've started to see spots where, because if you're in the middle of trial, you haven't slept, you're, whatever, you can say, Your Honor, I've got to have a break. And so long as the judge is okay with that, the judges tend to be very understanding with that. I mean, we're human beings and we're really kind of pushing beyond our limits. These attorneys haven't slept. These attorneys are barely eating. They are, if you're lucky, they're hydrating. So I think any of these attorneys asking for a break is appropriate at any time. It is appropriate. Absolutely. Thanks for tonight. Yes. Classic giggles. Of course. Yes, Cecilia, I agree. So what you'll notice here, everyone, at the end of each of her questions, she's saying, right. That just means it's a leading question. To this degree is a lot. Like, I've done a lot of cross-examinations in my day, and you might lead, the first handful of questions, and then you should be able to get your questions out and have it be in a format where it's leading. But for her to put right at the end of every single one of her questions, in my opinion, is incredibly aggressive. It's not wrong, but it's really frustrating, I think, and it speaks to her not being able to really have control over her question. So I think if you phrase your question, you can phrase your question a million ways. And she was just stuck in this rut of the only way she could ask her question was by saying, right, right, or isn't that true? Rather than asking it as a yes or no question. So you don't even have to, like, we could rephrase that. We could rephrase this question. And you went with your agent too. And then you could say all kinds of things. Did you go with your agent too, right? So you would rephrase the front end, or you could do the back end. There's a million ways to do it in order to shake it up to make sure that you keep the jury's attention. But I think because she was just making a statement, she had to just toss in a right at the end of it. So I think it was really showing that the questions were not particularly polished, in my opinion. And that can happen. Again, I mean, you're exhausted. They've been doing this for hours. This attorney, right or wrong, she's a human being. She's trying to do her job here. And, her technique here is definitely needs work. Yeah. In my opinion, I think for something of this caliber, this should have been more polished. And I think, and again, I don't know this attorney. I don't know how many trials she's done, but I mean, I think after you hit maybe 250 trials, like you don't even do this anymore because it just becomes so monotonous. Do you think the attorney is making a case? Well, again, the only people that have to make the case is the state. The only thing the defense has to do is discredit the state. And I think that the defense is trying. I'm not sure they're succeeding, but I think they're trying everything that they can at this point to discredit the state's case. Now, are they being successful? At this point, no, I wouldn't say they are, but we still have a lot of time left. We've still got a lot of time left. But their whole point, again, is to put holes in the state's case. Yeah, we still have Michael. Oh, absolutely, just a jelly bean, which jelly beans happens to be my favorite. So with that, everybody, oh my gosh, it's time for me to come to an end on tonight's session. Oh my goodness. The jury is most certainly not stupid. Exactly. Well, our juries, I think a lot of people underestimate. Our juries are incredibly intelligent. So I will go ahead and sign off for tonight. Good night, Navy vet, and say farewell. I will be back again tomorrow at my usual time, 7 o'clock Central. I will have my comments and everything turned off for the first hour of the reading, and then I'll turn the comments on for everybody after that. So we will go back into our regular routine. I do want to finish up transcripts, so I will start with the rest of Stormy's testimony and then start to get into some of our other witnesses as well, because I do want to make sure that we get through as much of the transcripts as we can before the state rests their case. So I will do my best, and I will double check and make sure to put a post up tomorrow letting everybody know that I will be back on tomorrow. So thank you all for coming and hanging out. Yes, happy Mother's Day to everyone. And I really appreciate all of the support and time that you all spend with me. So have a great night, everyone. I will be back again tomorrow. And to all of my subscribers, thank you so much for your support. It just means the world to me. Have a great one, everyone.